pushed by the waves. Everybody getting rushed to their graves. Everybody got enough to be saved, but they don't make heroes no more.
December 2nd, Monday Night Raw was probably the best Monday Night Raw in a very, very, very long time. And I don't just mean of the year. I may mean in many years. Got to give Triple H some credit. Because all they did on this episode of Monday Night Raw was basic storytelling. Basic, long-term storytelling. Soap opera storytelling. That's really all they did. All the things that happen in a character's life, you bring them up in opportune moments and intense situations. This is what I have been saying for WWE to do for years. And then Triple H is just smart enough to be the guy who actually decides to do it. And not decide that events that happened 4 or 5 years ago, or 10 or 15 years ago, no longer occur, no longer matter. And those things have always been a problem. It is always a problem when you try to erase history, when you try to ignore history. These things always come back up, and it always feels like you dropped something or you left money on the table. But now they're digging in and they're saying, we're not leaving scraps. We're going back and we're collecting everything. That's smart. That means that somebody is actually paying attention to the shows. It's smart because it now rewards the audience for watching the product. Now, there's still some decisions that I question, of course. But at least with 2 segments on this show, the CM Punk segment with Seth Rollins and Sami Zayn, and the New Day segment, they follow the same formula. These characters have been on television for over a decade. They're mixing in some personal stuff with the kayfabe, making it something real. And these guys don't have to be great orators in order to say what they feel or in order to say what they think. Now, it's not perfect, okay? These are wrestlers, they're not actors. So it's not always going to be perfect. But what they did was very simple. Has always been what I've been saying that wrestlers should be. And it worked. That's all this show was. It was a return to basic storytelling. Let's get right into it. The CM Punk segment. I'm going to assume everybody watched it. I'm not going to recap it that much. CM Punk wants to main event WrestleMania. He didn't say the words WrestleMania, but he pointed to a fictitious sign, which everybody knows what that means. Seth Rollins comes out there and says, I should have knocked your ass out when you first got here. Punk says, I'm focused on something else. I got business to attend to. I don't care about you. Seth Rollins says, oh, no, but I care about you. And they proceed to have the worst brawl in the history of brawls because neither one of these motherfuckers can throw a punch. If we just take that part, the part where these two guys cannot fight, and take that out of there, it's an excellent segment. Seth Rollins has had a problem with CM Punk for years. He's had a problem with Punk for years. His problem with Punk is not reciprocated. Punk doesn't have a problem with Rollins. It's all about how Rollins feels about Punk. That's motivating Rollins to act the way that he's acting. Now, of course, over time, he's going to have to articulate why he feels so strongly about CM Punk and what CM Punk did to him that pissed him off to such a degree. Now, in this situation, it is perfect for Punk because he's talking about goals and dreams and he's resetting his character. He's talking about how he's got favors in his back pocket, but he came back to this company to main event WrestleMania. That's what he wanted to do. He wants to be a world champion. That's what he came back for. He's resetting that character. Resetting. What that means is if you have a character that's in a saga or a journey or an adventure of some kind, Occasionally, the character will get off track. The character will be derailed by something. Just a normal course of the story. The character then has to be reset. That means the character has to restate what their goal is. And then remind the reader or watcher, this is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to achieve. And these people are obstacles in my story. You know, these people are in the way. So Punk comes in, resets his character by saying, my goal is to be the world heavyweight champion. My goal is to main event WrestleMania. Now, here comes the obstacle. That's Seth Rollins. Okay, last year, it was a personal tiff between the two of them. Punk fed into it because Rollins was the champion. Now Rollins isn't the champion. Punk doesn't need to feed into that anymore. Okay, perfect, makes sense. Their position as CM Punk as being sort of the main character in this story because he's the one with the dream, the vision, or whatever. Rollins is just an antagonist. And this is basic antagonist. He doesn't really have his own dream or vision. He just doesn't like Phil. So he wants to fight him. He wants to knock him out. That's it. You know, that's really it. He doesn't like this guy. So Sami Zayn comes out there to help stop the brawl. Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins have their problem. You know, Sami Zayn says, you can't talk to Jey Uso that way after Seth Rollins says, go run back to Roman to Jey. He stands up for Seth. He stands up to Seth for Jey. Seth then says, okay, Jey is family to Roman. They got to see each other on Thanksgiving and birthdays and all that. What's your excuse? And they start talking about, of course, how terrible Roman is. Sami Zayn says, you created this monster. You turned on him. You betrayed him. So he started mistreating everybody. Seth Rollins says, I know that that's what happened. I accept responsibility for that. But you did the same thing. At the Royal Rumble, you hit him with a chair in the back too. And you did it because he was treating people like garbage. Why would you go back and help him after that? You're being gullible. You're being stupid. So then Sami Zayn wants to fight Seth Rollins. Again, sensible story here. Rollins is pissy. He hates CM Punk, and he hates Roman Reigns. And then seeing CM Punk and Roman Reigns working together, that's a problem for him. And now we're having a similar, this is what I don't like, a similar methodology here between Rollins and Kevin Owens. Rollins is like, if you helped Roman, you're the op, okay? We already got somebody doing that, but it works either way, okay? So Rollins is saying, I don't really care for Jey anymore because Jey helped Roman. He didn't have to do that. Don't really care about you, Sami, because you helped Roman. There's no excuse for that. And Sami Zayn has his own reasons for helping Roman, which we know is he was actually helping Jey because the bloodline beat up Jey. Sami Zayn wanted to help Jey. That's his reasoning. He didn't want to team with Punk either, but he teamed with Punk to help Jey. He didn't express that, but if you follow the story, that's what's going on. Okay? Sami was not in this to help Roman. He was in this to help Jey. Jey was in this to help Jimmy. Jimmy was in this to help Roman. The only person who really cares about Roman is Jimmy. Pretty much, okay? And Paul. Now, Seth Rollins did note that Roman Reigns did not apologize to anybody. There was not one bit of reflection, not one bit of contrition, nothing when it comes to Roman Reigns. He has not changed, which is a good point to make because that's the point I've been saying for a long time. So what this tells me is they're not doing a Roman Reigns redemption arc. This was basically a loose alliance. The purpose of all of these people being in the bloodline was to, when they separate, they all can say, ew, you were teaming up with Roman. How dare you? How could you do that? Sensible. Sami Zayn says, I chose you. I wanted you to be our partner, but you refused us. Again, sensible reaction, sensible thing to say, because he did ask Seth Rollins to be the partner, and he said no, because he don't want to team with Roman. So you see these multiple angles here. Sami Zayn wanted to help Jay, but he was willing to put aside his personal feelings about CM Punk, which we don't know what they got going on yet. It's likely not kayfabe. And then you have the personal issue with Roman, which is kayfabe, but he's willing to put those things aside because he likes Jay, and because Jay treated him like family. Vince Russo, who's supposed to be like the great storyteller, he doesn't understand this. He's on Twitter like, why does Sami Zayn care so much about Jey Uso? Have you not been paying attention to the story for the last 4 fucking years, Mr. Great Writer? Have you not been paying attention? This is what I mean. When people start talking about Vince Russo being this great writer, he watches every episode of Monday Night Raw. And well, I don't know about SmackDown. He watches every episode of Monday Night Raw. How does he not know about the Jay and Sami Zayn relationship? How does he not know that? How does he not know? How did he not see just a few weeks ago that it's not, you don't have to go back 10 years. You don't got to go back 15. Just a couple of weeks ago, maybe about 5 or 6 weeks ago, it was Jay who recruited Sami to return to the bloodline. I mean, it's common sense, man. But anyway, enough about him. Sensible stuff that we got here. Now, Jey Uso gets attacked backstage because, Moonface is talking. Who cares about him? And Jay is still conscious, but somehow didn't tell anybody who attacked him, which is dumb. If you're going to have a who did it, the person should be dead like Jade Cargill, right? If the person is still awake, they can talk. We should be able to know who did it. So, Sami Zayn and Seth Rollins, which is a big main event, is pretty much just an angle. Sami Zayn is very angry. He thinks that Seth Rollins attacked Jey Uso from behind. Seth Rollins is like, what are you talking about? I didn't do that. I wouldn't do that. So Sami Zayn goes and gets a chair. He's going to force Seth Rollins to admit it. He's going to Guantanamo Bay Seth Rollins into getting him to admit that he attacked Jey Uso. Turns out he didn't. He takes the chair, he throws it down, he decides otherwise, turns around, gets beat with a small package. Whatever. They just had to get out of the match somehow. So Seth Rollins says, you got to start using your brain, you got to start using your mind. And Sami Zayn is shocked that he lost a match that he wasn't really trying to win. Turns out he got attacked by Drew McIntyre. So Drew McIntyre, who for some reason is not coloring his beard. His hair is still colored, but his beard isn't. It's a weird thing. It's not as brown as it probably should be, but it's not as black as it was when he left. So that means that they're telling you now, or at least planting the seeds, that Drew McIntyre is who attacked Jey Uso. Now, there's, of course, tons of history between Drew McIntyre and the Bloodline. That the Bloodline screwed Drew McIntyre out of several world title matches, including embarrassed him in front of his hometown in Clash at the Castle. There's tons of history there between the two of them, right? So that's where I guess Drew McIntyre is going next. Now, what they're doing is they're treating the Bloodline like the Avengers. There's all of these separate stories that go, but it's all about the Bloodline being in the center. It's the centerpiece story, the biggest storyline in the company. They're trying to give everybody the rub off the Bloodline. That's the point. All of these people, Punk, McIntyre, Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, Jey Uso, whatever they do on SmackDown, the whole point is going to be how we can rub the Bloodline on Cody Rhodes. How can we rub the Bloodline on Kevin Owens? How can we rub, and they're doing it through these tag team matches and these 8-man tags and such. Which is smart. It's smart stuff. Of course, it just continues the same story of you teamed with Roman, I don't like you, which is repetitive, and you're doing too much of that too close together. But at the same time, it's working because now everything feels connected. Everything feels like it matters. If you have a positive conversation with Roman Reigns, somebody he beat up 2 years ago is going to pop out of the bushes and kick your ass, all right? Because you can't talk to him in any way positive without somebody wanting to break foot in your ass, all right? So this is, who knows what's going to happen next. But this was great. The entirety of this whole thing was excellent, with the exception of Philip and Colby trying to fight. They can't fight, all right? I don't know what that was. They cannot fight. Maybe Punk was trying to get something out of Rollins. He was trying to get Rollins to fire up, but Rollins can't punch. He can't punch for shit. So there's that. But overall, the storyline was fantastic. You reset the character of CM Punk. You've reset the character of Sami Zayn. You've reset the character of Drew McIntyre. And now Jey Uso has his own thing. He's probably going to be reset too, back to the singles act. He's not going to have a singles feud likely with Drew McIntyre. We don't know yet. So there's all of that stuff going on. They've reset the characters. But they have not stated anything yet. And this is the difference between main event guys and middle carders, right? In Big E's players article or whatever, he talked about guys who float throughout the roster. Sami Zayn is one of those guys. Sometimes he's in the main event. Sometimes he's not even featured at all. At this point, he just main evented a pay-per-view. Now he's sort of an important character. He is somebody that Drew McIntyre can feud with. It's a huge step down from CM Punk, but it is somebody he can feud with because Sami Zayn has main evented WrestleMania before. He was the first person to beat Gunther, former Intercontinental Champion. That all happened this year. So he's seen as somebody who the crowd cares about, and somebody that Drew McIntyre can have heat with, and this works. All right, so they can do this. Can they do it long term? I don't know. I don't know how much longer the Bloodline rub is going to work. So they're going to need new inciting incidents, which is likely going to be something that's going to happen in the future, where Drew is going to have to do something to Sami in order to make that heat legitimate outside of, you team with Roman Reigns, and I don't like that. So it can't be. It can't be that. Everybody can't do this, okay? Everybody can't have the same gimmick. So if that's going to be separate, and I hope it is, it could be good. Now, the New Day segment was great too. They set it up with the vignette showing the entire history of the New Day, of their single success, their tag team success, the brotherhood, everything. They brought it all together. Kofi and Woods, they come out, they go from smiling, happy, to being a little bit more serious. Xavier Woods start to discuss that maybe there's about to be a change here. Something's about to happen. And they say, look, it's not you guys' fault, the fans. We love you guys. We did it all for you. We did it, yada, yada, yada. This ain't got nothing to do with y'all. And they're about to announce basically a separation between him and Woods. And then Big E comes out there. And Big E, because he can talk, he is a good orator, he can get emotional, he lays it all out. How his soul was troubled by the argument between Woods and Kofi. He lays out all the things that they did for each other, all the time they spent for one another, family, relationships, the whole 9 yards. What New Day did for them as a group individually. Now, in Big E's article, he talked about how New Day didn't just save his career, it saved his life. He gave his own entire life story in there. I'm not going to go through the entire thing. But he talked about in the promo that Kofi was in WWE for a while, had been there for a long time, was contemplating retirement because his career had plateaued. He wasn't going any further. Nothing was really happening for him. He was almost done. Woods was loose, just flinging around. Nobody knew what to do with him. And Big E himself was floundering. I think he was the bodyguard for Dolph Ziggler for a while, and that didn't work out. And that him and Woods almost got fired. And it was bringing them all together that made all of them have the careers that they had. I really like in the players article, and I'm going to read this because this is the part I really liked. He said, I think if there's one reason we've been able to win that bet, means betting on themselves, and it's the obvious one, it's real. Kofi Mania, that was real. Kofi is a GOAT, and he was passed over way too often, and he was underappreciated for way too long, and we did have no sense as to why. We felt that. So while that's Kofi's world title and his alone, and Woods and I would never claim a piece of it, we felt all of it. It wasn't won by the group, but it came from within the group. It was for the group. You know what I'm saying? And when Woods won King of the Ring, it was for the group. And when I grabbed that Money in the Bank briefcase, it was for the group. And when I won the world title, becoming the 4th Black WWE champion after The Rock, Kofi, and Bobby Lashley, it was for the group. In other words, New Day made them. And all the success that they had was individual success, but it was for the New Day. It was to benefit the legacy of the New Day. So he's thinking about that from that perspective. Now, I'm pretty sure this was not kayfabe because he was talking about his real family and stuff in this. But this was released just hours before his promo. So he wanted you to read this and then, again, melding kayfabe and reality. Read this, my real life story about how I got to this point, and then listen to the kayfabe story as well as I use this in storyline. It was incredibly well done. So he talks about New Day meaning a lot to a lot of people, reminding them who they are. Said he's going to be there every single week until he's medically cleared to manage the New Day, to keep them focused, and to remind them who they are. Xavier Woods then turned that on Big E. Because he's the bitter one, mind you. He's the one that's supposed to be the heel in this scenario, even though he got buried last week. He's like, you left us. You ready to come back now? After 4 years that we're told that he's been gone for, it didn't even seem like it had been 4 years. It didn't seem like it was that long ago when he got injured. So I'm pretty sure it wasn't 4 years. It might have been closer to 3. Because 2020 was 4 years ago. He wasn't the world champion 4 years ago. Right? So he won the title in 2021, if I remember correctly. So it's a little off, but it's been years since Big E has been in a ring. And Xavier Woods said, you left me. You left us. Kofi doubled down and says, you know what? You're right. You did leave us. Big E's like, I broke my neck. Like, you guys were there for that. We just went over this. We just went over the fact that I broke my neck. And Kofi's like, so what? Which got the most heat out of this whole thing. Kofi saying, so what you broke your neck? Edge broke his neck. Stone Cold Steve Austin broke his neck. Kurt Angle broke his neck. They all came back. Why didn't you come back? I tore my ACL. I came back to help you. I needed surgery. You didn't even need surgery on your neck. And that was interesting because I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's true or not. But we're gonna roll with it. So then Xavier Woods, he's reaching for the heat. He says that Big E has become a burden to the rest of New Day. Because everywhere they go, people are asking when E coming back. And he says that everybody misses E, but E don't miss them. Kofi said it was supposed to be brotherhood before anything. Brotherhood before everything, but you chose your new life over us. And then Xavier Woods again reaching for the heat. He's trying to get the heat that Kofi got when he says, so what? He's like, let's be honest, you're never going to be medically cleared. So go back to your desk job and we'll call you if we need you. So that was great. That was fantastic. So Big E is standing there. His hairline is all screwed up. And he's pleading with these guys. Like, it can't be over like this. Just like that, it's over. Just like that, it's over. And then they both just look at him like, nah, we ain't rocking with you like that. You turned your back on us. It's over. So then Kofi approaches Woods. And, he says, it's just you and me, bro. It's just you and me. And then Woods is like, yep, it's just you and me. It's just us. So he did bring New Day back together, just not in the way that everybody thought. He was the scapegoat. That they were mad at each other at first. They had issues with each other, but they bonded over their dislike of Big E. Their feelings of abandonment towards Big E. And even though, if you watch Xavier Woods, he's very cartoonish, and it looks like he's going to smile or laugh at some points in this thing. Again, I said it last week, Woods, I don't think, has a mean streak. Kofi has it. That's why I think Kofi is more effective. And plus, I think he's more respected in this position. So when Kofi says something, and he's generally just nice guy Kofi, when he's saying mean stuff, it hits harder. Because one, he's more respected. He's the elder statesman of these three. He's the senior. So if he's coming down and saying mean shit, for starters, the fans have always seen happy-go-lucky Kofi, even when he's a heel. He's happy-go-lucky Kofi. He'll never say anything like this. Xavier Woods comes across like a cartoon character. Like, he's saying stuff, but he feels like he's acting. So it's a little bit different. But if you just watch Woods, he looks like he's going to smile. He's doing the old Majin Buu huffing and puffing stuff. It's like, get out of here with that. Which is why I say it's not perfect. But this was a really great scene. Because everybody figured Big E is going to come in, put on his pastor voice, and force the group back together with love and brotherhood. And he tried to do that. And it got rejected. Because they've been on their own for so long that he doesn't really feel like a member of the group anymore. They specifically said that we stopped evolving and we waited for you. In other words, we stayed in our place. We stayed here as the New Day, waiting for you to come back. But you're never coming back. Even after he just said he's coming back. He's like, you're never coming back. You'll never be medically cleared. They don't believe in Big E anymore. Now, whether Big E is medically cleared or not was a bit of a point of contention here. And one of the things that might be important later. Because if Big E never wrestles again, if he doesn't want to come back, if he can't come back, then this set up perfect heel turn. They're not kicking him out of the group. It's not a breakup. So I want people to realize that. Big E was not kicked out of the New Day. He was just rejected. The role that he wanted to play in the group was rejected. That's really all it is. Big E saying it gets over. It's over just like that. It's like, no, this conversation is over. But they said, and Xavier Woods said it, we'll call you if we need you. Basically saying, we don't need you right now. We got it. Right? It's us now. Not that they don't want him here, but they don't want that version of Big E here right now. So this could be planting the seeds for a Big E return. And what kind of New Day is going to exist if Big E decides to put the straps on again? Is it going to be a heel New Day, a more serious and focused New Day? Because then we got to have this conversation all over again. Does Big E try to come in now that he's wrestling again and fix this version of New Day? Or does we never see Big E again? Or, we see him only on kickoff panels or whatever and see how that works out. So I thought this was great. It leaves a lot of questions open. It didn't fix completely the Kofi Kingston Xavier Woods thing, but it gave them a scapegoat. Somebody that they could blame and dump all of their bitterness on and then cut them off. Because that's what scapegoats are all about. I don't know what the fuck Jack Perry is trying to do. But a real scapegoat, like from the Bible, means that you sacrifice or you pour all of your sins into this animal and then you sacrifice it. That was Big E. And that's why I wanted to bring in the players, I don't know what's called, the Players Tribune or whatever. Because he talked about everything being for the group. Everything they did individually being for the benefit of the group. The benefit of the legacy of the group. This is the same thing here. Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods don't think Big E is ever going to wrestle again. So for the legacy of the group, they are going to carry it on without Big E. Because Big E can't wrestle. And they are, in their minds, saying Big E cannot wrestle anymore. So we're going to cut that part out. We're not going to wait on you anymore. We're going to do our own thing. And if you come back, maybe. If you don't come back, who cares? We're doing our own thing. That was the point of this. And it was very emotional. Big E was crying basically before he even got in the ring. He's a very emotional guy. He's very emotional. So this was a fantastic segment. Again, all they did was look at the history of these characters and let them go out there and tell true stories. Didn't have to do too much acting. Just tell true stories about how you feel. And then we just mix in some kayfabe with these guys healing it up. It was simple. It was effective. And I don't like it because now New Day is stuck as a tag team again. And we've seen tag team New Day for, again, a decade. So if this leads to something more for these guys where they're, I don't want to say win the singles titles, but the only singles title they can win is held by Brian Breaker, who I love to death. So I'm not thrilled about that. But if we're just going to reset, again, we reset New Day. They are resetting their goals. We're not worried about Big E anymore. Big E is not a concern of ours right now. But they've already won the tag team titles 100 times. We're going to have to look at this thing from fresh eyes. Meaning, this version of New Day, this revamped version of New Day, this Big E less version of New Day, how successful can they be now that they are refocused? Now that they have dumped out all of their bitterness, all of their anger, they've dumped it out on each other, they've dumped it out on Big E, now they have to move forward. How effective can they be? That's going to be very interesting. I saw some people say, is this going to be like when the Rockers broke up and, Shawn turned on Marty and threw him through the barbershop window? No, this is not. It's not that effective, if we're being honest. They didn't touch Big E, for starters. If they'd have touched him, that would have gave away that Big E could work, though. So that's part of what they don't want to give away. They don't want you to know whether Big E can take bumps or not. Because if Big E can take a bump, then they negated what they said earlier about him not coming back. So they didn't touch him, which gives you the belief that he can't work. So it'll be a surprise if he comes back. But this is not the same thing. Now, for a young fan, if you're a younger fan, then you've grown up with New Day, this probably does bother you because it's a very mean segment. But it's nothing like the barbershop window. I mean, that was astronomical at the time. That was crazy. It's not even akin to when Seth Rollins turned on the Shield. Again, that involved physicality. This did not have any physicality. So verbally, it was pretty bad. But they didn't leave him, bloody or anything like that. So there's not going to be a visual outside of sad faces that people are going to remember in 15 years. But it's a really good segment. I think it was a really strong segment. So Finn Balor says that he had to deal with Damian Priest because Dominic Mysterio didn't. Then he says that if Liv had listened to him, she would have won War Games. Listen to Finn and you will win. That's his new motto. Liv Morgan then sends Dominic to be with Finn, as Finn is going to go off and do something or other. Who knows? She's got a match later, so she doesn't have time to babysit Finn Balor. As he marches along to find Gunther and say that he wants a title match. Says that instead of kicking him in the face, Gunther should have been shaking his hand. So Gunther said, I didn't want your help, nor did I need it. In fact, you took away my honor. I wanted to beat Damian Priest on my own, and you took that away from me. Then he said that he was jealous that Dominic Mysterio actually did beat Damian Priest. And he's going to follow this up with a chat with Adam Pearce about who really deserves a match with him. So Gunther had a match with Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio came into this match, honestly, as the babyface. The crowd loved him. They were chanting for him. The crowd was hot for him even when he cheated. Even when he was doing low blows, they were all in on Dominic Mysterio. So this match was fun. Dominic lost with Gunther's powerbomb, which I guess is only reserved for when Gunther is fighting a smaller opponent. If he's fighting a similar in size opponent, he's obsessed with the sleeper hold. But if he's somebody smaller, he's going to go for the powerbomb. Just go for the powerbomb all the time, I say. Anyway, match was fine. Dominic should be positioned like this all the time now, I think. I think people respect his work so much now that he's a babyface in the face of Gunther. So after the match, Finn Balor assaulted Gunther, gave him a couple coups de grace, and then says that Dominic needs to watch and learn. You need to watch and learn, kid. Watch and learn. So later, Finn Balor went and talked to Adam Pearce again. Says that, why are you letting Gunther duck me? Give me the title match. Adam Pearce says, look, it takes heaven and earth to get you to defend your tag team title, and you're talking about winning a new title. So then he says, okay, I'll give you the shot. Saturday night's main event, you'll get the match for the World Heavyweight title, Gunther versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight title. And then so they're going to talk next week about his other championship match. In other words, they're going to have to do something with the tag team titles. Now, a lot of people have a lot of different feelings about Finn Balor. I have expressed that I think Finn Balor has missed his train and that he's kind of stuck on the dock. You know, he's one of these guys that, again, he's floating. Sometimes he matters, sometimes he doesn't. I do declare, I'm going to jump out on the ledge and say Finn Balor should win the world title from Gunther at Saturday night's main event. He should win the title. And Damian Priest should chase him for the title. There's nothing wrong with that formulation. It's probably not going to happen, but it should happen. All right. The reason why it should happen is because I'm not sure if Gunther holding the title from SummerSlam to WrestleMania is going to be as accepted as him being the Intercontinental Champion as long as he was. When he was Intercontinental Champion for a long time, it made the title stronger. But I don't think he's as strong as a world champion. So I think now that he's really tied up with Damian Priest and he's tied up with Finn Balor, that the natural thing is a triple threat match between the two. And I don't like triple threat matches. But the best way to set up that triple threat match would be for Finn Balor to win the title and for Damian Priest to try to chase him for the belt, and Gunther gets his rematch, and that's what you have at the Royal Rumble. But let's say you just do the boring route, which is Damian Priest cost Finn Balor the title because Finn Balor cost him the title. Well, that's just as effective. It just continues the Finn Balor Damian Priest storyline, which, quite frankly, everybody's tired of. I think people are kind of tired of Finn Balor and Damian Priest. The best way to pay that thing off is for Balor to win the title, which is what began this whole thing. All of this started because Finn Balor tried to win the world title and couldn't. When he was fighting, I believe it was Seth Rollins. And he couldn't win the world title. All of this started there. The schism between Finn Balor and Damian Priest started there when Damian Priest was walking around with the Money in the Bank briefcase. You could pay off that storyline by having Finn Balor win the title. And then he finishes the feud with Damian Priest as the champion. Now, whatever you do with that, whenever Finn Balor drops the belt, he can be out of this storyline. Because again, this whole thing was Finn wanted to win the title. That's his goal. He is now restating his goal. He's resetting his character. His stated goal is to be the world champion again. Give him the title and then take it away from him. He's not champion that long. He's champion a couple of weeks or whatever. Take the belt from him. Now you can move him out of the story. And then you maybe have Gunther beat Damian Priest, move him out of the story. Get both of them out of this story. Get them away from this belt. And then they need to get away from each other. So you have time before WrestleMania, but not before Saturday night's main event, to get both of these guys out of here. I am tired of seeing Finn Balor and Damian Priest argue. I'm tired of the Judgment Day. I'm tired of all of this shit. All right? I'm sick of it. Sick to death. I fully expect Finn Balor and JD McDonough to lose the tag team titles at some point, likely before Saturday night's main event. And this will free Finn Balor up to win the world title. Put the belt on Finn. Maybe have Damian Priest beat Finn for the belt. Then you reintroduce Gunther. You have Gunther win the title back. Damian Priest and Finn Balor have a match at an Elimination Chamber or something like that to end their story. And then they go away from each other. Get it out of here. That's another 2 months, by the way. Get this shit out of here. So you don't have to, microwave this thing. You got 2 more months. That's 8 more weeks before the Royal Rumble. And then you got a couple of weeks after the Royal Rumble is Elimination Chamber. So by March, Damian Priest and Finn Balor could be away from each other in a story that's unrelated, where they can do other things and be feuding with other people and not with each other. And maybe by then, Gunther could be doing something interesting with an interesting opponent. You could have Gunther win the title, Punk wins the Rumble, Gunther, Punk, WrestleMania. That you could do that. All right? If you insist on Seth Rollins, versus Punk, I guess. Okay. I don't know if you go that match for WrestleMania or you do it at Saturday night's main event. However long that show is going to be. It seems like that show is going to be pretty long. It may be 2 hours. It seemed like it's going to be 2 hours because they got 2 world title matches on there. And they're going to crown the first women's United States champion on there. So they got at least 3 matches on there. It's probably going to go some pretty good length. So you got some time. But I want the goal of Balor and Priest to be away from each other. And I don't really need Damian Priest in the title picture anymore either. But I just say this is the best way to do it. Either you have Gunther beat Finn Balor and then he gets no more title shots. Or you have Balor achieve his dream, achieve his goal, win the world title, get screwed out of it, and then he can go and feud with somebody else. Go off and do something else. This Finn Balor, Damian Priest thing is getting on my nerves. Speaking of on my nerves, Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, my God. They've been feuding for a year, it seems like. Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez defeated Kairi Sane and Io Sky when Raquel Rodriguez pinned Kairi Sane with the Tahana Bomb. After the match, Raquel and Liv jumped Io, but Rhea Ripley made the save. Raquel and Rhea had a brawl, which, Rhea, of course, won. And then Liv, who fled earlier, turned around and came back. Raquel then threw Rhea's eye into the corner of the desk. So they're using the corner of the desk now to tell stories. And Rhea's new, her injured eye, they slammed her face against it. So she sold it a little bit, but she was back up fighting not long afterwards. Next week, they're finally going to do Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Rodriguez, which means that they're getting closer to this thing being over. Io Sky and Liv Morgan, their match for the championship was also announced for Saturday night's main event. How long is this show going to be? For God's sake, it's going to be 3 hours. I hope not. Well, I wouldn't be mad if it's 3 hours, actually. You know, it's not that bad. It's network television. But Rhea Ripley is still floating around. And this thing with her and Liv, it's got to end. I don't know how you end it. I would say we've blown by Hell in a Cell already. I Quit match or something. Who knows? But the Liv Rhea thing, it's been going on for too long. It's been too one-sided. You know, Rhea's been way too dominant. Raquel has been way too ineffectual. She hasn't really made an impact. I, of course, was like, Rhea needs somebody with her to help because she's so small. And then they put Raquel with her, and then Raquel just started getting beat up. So it's not working. We just got to separate these people. I don't know how you do it, but you need to have the big blow-off match, Rhea and Liv. And Rhea is going to win it. So probably put the belt back on Rhea. Maybe the Royal Rumble is where you do it. You drag this thing. And again, the Royal Rumble is in February. Maybe you drag this thing to the next Saturday night's main event, and you pay it off there. But you got to pay this feud off at some point. This feud has got to end. It's got to end at some point. The Women's Intercontinental Championship thing they got next. Dakota Kai defeats Katana Chance and Shayna Baszler. I mean, Shayna Baszler is a shell of herself, bro. I mean, outside of a knee strike, she can't really do much of anything. She's winded. She looks bad. She looks better in Bloodsport. That seems to be something that she's more comfortable, more focused. In WWE, she looks like she fell out of a gay bar. You know, a gay biker bar at that. Like she was a Hell's Angel or something like that. It just looks bad. I thought she was wearing blue jeans at one point. Or black jeans. I'm just like, my God, Shayna, what is going on here? You might need to reset. You might need to go and do something else. Katana Chance is a spot monkey, but she's a very talented spot monkey. She was more impressive than Dakota Kai. I dislike Dakota Kai. She has no personality, but the internet seems to like her. But so she won the match. I wasn't thrilled about it, but here we are. So the Women's Intercontinental Championship, the bracket is out, and oh boy. So they got Zoe Stark, Raquel Rodriguez, and Kaden Carter in one match. That's going to be a goddamn disaster. Okay, Zoe Stark is so boring. And Raquel is so green. She's still green. She's been wrestling for 5 years now. More than 5 years. She was in Evolve for a while. And she just can't put two and two together. She's like another Nia Jax. Kaden Carter, man. She's just in that match to take pins. Why else would she be there? You got Lyra Valkyria, Zelina Vega, and Ivy Nile. That looks fun. I fully expect Lyra Valkyria to win that. Then you got Alba Fire, Kairi Sane, and Natalya. Alba Fire. Okay. Interesting. I thought she was on SmackDown. I don't know what show she's on, so it doesn't matter. Natalya, it is what it is. Kairi Sane's not going to win. She's just in this thing to look good. Now, I'm going to pitch an idea. And I think this is probably the best option you got here. Is the internet wants Dakota Kai to win the tournament because she's a good Twitch streamer or whatever. I choose to disregard Dakota Kai because of her lack of charisma and personality and ability to talk. But this is the work rate title. This is the work rate belt. They're not expecting you to draw any money with this belt. But I still would not put it on Dakota Kai. I think that the finals will end up being Dakota Kai and Lyra Valkyria. I fully think that Lyra Valkyria should win this title. To be quite honest, Lyra Valkyria should be wrestling for the main belt. And that was the whole reason Becky Lynch worked to bring her to the main roster. I mean, she went down there to NXT to put her over personally. And I know some people will be like, who cares? It's like when a top star is trying to pass the torch to somebody, the company should pay attention. All right. And I could just see Becky just sitting at home shaking her head like this whole thing with Liv is not working. Rhea is clearly the top star in the entire company. Io is just somebody Triple H has a crush on. I don't dislike Io, but Io's push has been massive. It's been absolutely, over the top. It's been a super push. So because Triple H doesn't believe in moving the top titles around a lot, or because he's already got something earmarked for that Rhea's probably going to be champion for the rest of the millennium, this title is going to exist. At some point, you do have to create new stars, and by new stars, I mean people who could actually be stars. Lyra Valkyria can't really talk. She's not a charismatic personality, but she's better than Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai sucks. All right. If you look at this thing, to be quite honest, the best promo of anybody in this entire tournament is Zelina Vega, and she's not going to win this tournament. She would be a good choice if you're trying to reward people for hard work and get somebody who can get some heat or some pops, and people generally like them. Zelina Vega is also a very popular Twitch personality or whatever, and she can actually talk. She has charisma and personality. But they put her and Lyra Valkyria in the same match. So I personally would probably put the belt on Zelina. If I was going to have a women's Intercontinental title, Zelina Vega would probably be my best choice, because you want to be able to tell stories. Zelina Vega is the best person to tell stories with. If you just want to give somebody a consolation prize that we're not going to make you the world champion, so here, take this, Lyra Valkyria is the best option. If you just want to make the internet happy, then you put the belt on Dakota Kai. If you're legit and you're serious, then you put the belt on somebody like Zelina Vega. Or you just don't have this belt at all, which I would prefer that. I don't have a problem with that option either, if we're being quite honest. But we got to move on. R-Truth pinned Pete Dunne. Who cares? Braun is going to fight Ludwig Kaiser. Ludwig Kaiser is very happy that he did away with Sheamus. So the two of them can now continue fighting for the Intercontinental Championship. I like Ludwig Kaiser. I think that he could be where Gunther is. I don't think that Ludwig Kaiser is a natural born sidekick. I think that he's got it, what it's necessary to be a world champion. He can talk, he can work, he looks great. His mannerisms fit his character. I don't think him and Gunther should be on the same... They're very similar characters, so I don't think they should be on the same brand. But I think Kaiser is more of a natural heel, while Gunther is being kind of honorable heel. That's going to end up turning him babyface in some situations. While Kaiser he's like Vega from Street Fighter, kind of, And if you can pull that out of him, because people love Vega from Street Fighter. If you've ever played Street Fighter, like he's one of the more popular characters because he has that blend of physical charisma, personality, but he's sadistic. The monster within belies the beauty on the outside. Ludwig Kaiser can do something like that too, and I think that can make him a better heel than Gunther. Somebody who talks a good game, but is far more vicious, far more hypocritical than even Gunther is. And I think that could work long term at the top, because you can't really put that in the middle somewhere. That's somewhere at the top. Is he ever going to get there? Probably not. Because I think Triple H is going to look and compare him to Gunther constantly, and I like a lot of other people will too. They'll just say, oh, he's Gunther's underling. And to be quite honest, that could be a better storyline. That somebody with the potential of Kaiser is just being a pawn. But a Machiavellian story where he sort of is in service to Gunther until he's in a position where he can stab Gunther in the back. Similar to Brutus and Caesar, where he's just waiting for his opportunity and he's going to stab Gunther in the back. That would be great. That could be an excellent usage of Ludwig Kaiser. I don't think he should win the title from Brian Breaker, so I don't think Brian Breaker should be taking losses. But I love these two guys working together. I think it's fun. Brian Breaker has excellent meathead energy. He's just he's a Steiner, bro. I mean, he's just going to go in there and bowl people over and be athletic and wreck shit. If he's not world champion next year, then this company doesn't know what they're doing. All right. This company is way off base. If Brian Breaker is not the world champion at some point next year, or I will say, let's just say put him in position. He should be wrestling top guys next year. He should be in there with Seth Rollins. He should be in there with Punk. He should be in there with Drew. He should be in there with, higher level guys next year. Maybe he doesn't have the belt because I know Triple H, again, he loves his long world title runs. But he needs to be in the conversation very, very soon. But I could just see that Triple H is going to put a glass ceiling over his head because he's under the age of 40, which is what Triple H does. It makes it easier for him to tell stories because if you're old, it means you've been around for a long time, which means you could do stuff like what he's doing with Seth Rollins and CM Punk and Drew McIntyre and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens, because these guys have been around forever. So it's easier to tell stories with them because they got so many strings attached to them. As I used to say before, when I used to talk about Vince, everybody is a puppet with strings, and you pull the string and something moves, right? Move a finger. The string is the relationship. So if you move the arm, the entirety of the arm moves. That means all of the different things that are attached to the arm is also moving. Fingers, hand, thumb, everything. So if you move the bloodline, you're moving a bunch of other fingers with it. And all the relationships that attach to the characters. In Vince's era, they were not utilizing that thought process. They were trying to use one thing at a time, and resetting characters and taking them out of the story and moving them far, far away from the story instead of utilizing what was working and pushing the history. But the downside to that is if you're a young talent, you don't have all these attachments. You're a Carmelo Hayes or somebody like that. You don't have this stuff. You've only been on the roster 6 months, 8 months, or whatever. Outside of the occasional match here and there, you don't have like some kind of deep history with somebody that you can play off of that the crowd would get into, which makes you less interesting because this is what they're doing. Outside of force feeding you into that scenario like they were doing with Tiffany Stratton, where they're trying to force a situation between her and Nia Jax, they can't really do that. So it's going to take time. But these people are out there taking bumps, so I would not think they should take forever. But again, it's easy to tell stories with characters that already exist. It's hard to build a world. It's easy to come along and do fan fiction once the world already exists. Everybody can come in and, once Toriyama has written Dragon Ball and just say, oh, it would be so much better if he did this, this, and this. That's easy, because he's already set up the characters, the world, the system, the fight style, all that kind of stuff is already set up. And you just come in and do your own thing. You're just coming in and doing, fan fiction. And it works. It works for people who like Star Wars and Lord of the Rings. And I think I can write this. It's like, no, because the writer has to build the world. The world in WWE is already built. Triple H just has to take advantage of the relationships that already exist. But what we see is that he's not setting up new ones. He's taking advantage of things that already exist. So if you're a new talent from NXT, unless you are a member of the Bloodline, then it's easy to bring you in. But if you're Carmelo Hayes, you're Brian Breaker, you have no attachments to these things, it's not going to work. It's going to be a little bit harder to get you to move. And they tried to do this. Remember they did the Brian Breaker, Jey Uso, a member of your family has never been a member of mine gimmick. And then they pushed him out of the story immediately. Get out of here. Because that's the only angle we had to play is we're dealing with guys who've been around for 20 or 30 years. And you're new. So here, you can go do this over here. And that works, but you have to be consistent. You have to at least people have to see him at least. So this was probably one of the best Raws of all time, to be quite honest. And I think it was very well done. And it was simple storytelling, man. You use the pieces that you have, but you have to create new ones. So my criticism of Triple H remains. He's not building any new stars. The New Day, as great as that segment was, New Day has been around for 10 years. Kofi Kingston has been around for 20. Almost 20. I think he came in 2005, maybe 2006. So it's been like 18 years or something like that. Then when you have, Punk, who's been around about as long as Kofi has, and, the Shield and Seth Rollins, he's been around for a decade, and Sami Zayn's been around for a decade. I mean, you got these guys who've been around for 10 years or more. You're basically just doing really good fan fiction with these characters. You're not building anything new, but you're building off the history that already exists, which is great because this is something WWE has lacked doing for so long. But you still do need to build new stars. Like, share, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys later.
No one does it better.